Okay, so I have a water softener here that I'm going to be removing because it's just never used. It's been here for years. It's just really been bypass mode. So the water supply comes here. It's just 3/4 inch. Goes over to the water softener, and there's just a bypass valve there. That bypasses it and just returns it back here to this 3/4, and then goes on to the water heater and supply in the house. So I'm just going to be cutting here, just do a little 45 on each side, and then attach it here, just essentially bypass or get rid of that because it's just wasting space here. Right, here's the water softener. Excuse all my pipes here. You can see here's the supply. Shut off the water in the house. I've unplugged the water heater just because I don't want that running and trying to heat water if there's no supply coming to it. Then I'm going to open the faucet here and drain the whole house all the way down because I don't want any water in here. That's the difficult part, especially when you're doing like these 3/4 inch pipes like this. If there's any water in here, when you go to heat it up, that water is going to absorb the heat, and just you won't be able to sweat the joint and melt the solder. So I'm going to take care of that first. Eye protection on just because I'm working above my head here. Glove because it's obviously going to be hot. I have one of these flame protectors, so it's going to put it up here. I probably won't need it just because I got enough distance here, but just in case. I like to use MAP gas. Got a couple different cutters here. I'll probably be using the bigger one here. I think I can get this in there a lot of times. Obviously got my joints, so I got a couple 45s here. I'm probably going to need to extend this a little bit, so I've got a couple butt joints here, end joints, and I'll just use this pipe that I'm going to cut off here. I don't really work with 3/4 very much, so all my stuff is 1/2 inch, but should be okay. Just for a brush to clean out the inside of the fittings, just to make them clean so that the solder works correctly. Solder, obviously, and then flex paste. So this is helpfully put on the joint to make the solder flow. Probably good to remember too, a bucket for the water because you're definitely going to have water. And I'm going to get a towel here just to clean up any mess. I don't really need to save. A lot of times I'll try to go as close as possible here, but this has got a lot of gunk on it, and I don't feel like cleaning all this off. So I'm just going to start this off. Yeah, of course, as soon as I was getting ready to cut the last little bit, then water starts draining out. So I'll just work on this one. I'm going to get another bucket too because I'm sure this one's going to leak. Now I got 2 leaks. It just slowly built up because I had pulled it down a little while ago and there was no water. I think it just slowly made its way over here. This one has some flexibility this way because it runs this way. So I'm gonna do this one first because this has no flexibility to it. I'll clean this one up. Emery cloth and clean this up. Just kind of look at it, make sure it's round. No solder on here, anything that's going to keep it out of being round. Get off any old tarnish or anything on there. You want to clean out inside of the joint, your joints as well here. You just, again, I don't have a 3/4 inch tools, so it's good enough. This comes from the factory, so it's pretty clean already, but just want to get off any oils or anything else that would affect it. I'm going to need 2. Do yourself a favor and buy 3 or an extra one, just in case you mess it up so you don't have to go back to the hardware store. Dry fit here, slides on there, okay, and you cleaned off enough. Flux. I'll come in here. Deburr this. Do that. You just want to get it on there and then on the joint. So both sides that are mating together, just in any of the parts that can be touched. This paste melts, and then it acts as a path for the solder to go on. So both these are clean. And I dry fit so I know it fits. It's seated all in there. So you're going to heat up both joints here. And what you want to do is get the solder to flow. You don't want it in the flame. You want it to be able to melt just by touching the pipes. And so that when it's like that, when you know both of them are hot, that's when you know it's going to flow correctly. Guard. Obviously see some water coming out, or steam coming out of here, because there's a little bit of water. See the flux bubbling, so that's good. I know it's melting. Green color here, so you know it's. And as you melt it, you should see it melt on the pipe, but then should also kind of disappear. What it's doing is it's getting sucked into the joint all around. So make sure, keep doing it until I see it dripping out of the bottom. You can see it, it's not dripping around the outside, it's actually dripping on the inside. So I know if I look in there, I should be able to see solder all the way in, but it's actually inside the joints there, and it was dripping out here on the bottom. Let's see if you can see inside there. Should be able to, all right, there you can see it towards the bottom. You'll be able to see it all around. It's kind of hard to see, but it's that way you know it's gone through the joint and that it's sealed and expanded the joint all in the inside. Obviously, it gives us plenty of time to cool down. It's still warm after like 5 minutes here. I'm just going to kind of try to estimate this here. So it's going to seat, the pipe's going to sit down here. This is 3/4, so it's going to sit down about 3/4 of an inch both sides. You need to add 1.5 inches. I think that's about right. I got about 3. I'm just kind of rough holding it here. It's hard to see with my hand in a way, but I'm gonna, lining it up here, and it looks like about 3 inches full, which is what I was kind of guessing, looking from here to here, plus adding 1.5 inches. So I think 3 inches should be good to get this lined up with this. So I've got a little bit of play in this, so I think that would be the easiest. It's just piece dry fitted on here, but what I think I'm going to do is just put all these pieces together and solder them all, just because I think it's going to be heating it. It's because as you heat it, it's going to transfer some of that heat to other pieces. I don't want to just I would keep doing it over and over again, melting it, cooling it, melting, cooling. So I think I'll try to do it all at one time and just slowly move along here. 1.25 inches here. 1.75 inches. All right, so I got 1.25 inches here, plus my 1.5 inches. All right, after cutting several different pieces, I finally got it working here. Jeez, I don't know what the issue was. And cutting up all these pieces here. So I was trying to off of this end, off of that end. I'm not sure if it was just old, and it's just kind of swollen a little bit, or who knows how many decades it's been here. Anyways, I got it dry fitted here. This one, obviously, is the first one I soldered. So I got all these joints in here, and you want to make sure it's loose here, where you're not, it's not under tension, trying to get it all together, because as you're soldering, you don't want it under tension, and then you heat this joint, and this one loosens up and it pulls or goes a different direction. So all these joints are fitting here. You can see I can actually turn it, so it's just loose enough, but it's still tight in here, and there's no pressure anywhere. So I'm going to solder all these joints together and finish this up. All right, so everything's flexed, clean. Let's start heating this up. Trying to get this whole thing hot. It doesn't cool very quickly and pull out. Moisture. That's just this right now. There. Turn up, pointing at my wood. Make sure you have something down here where your flex is falling. So mine's dumping right into the bottle, or the bucket of water here. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to let that cool off. 5-10 minutes, probably just give it a little bit longer before I then pressurize it. Just double checking all the joints to see all the way around, top and the bottom. Moment of truth here. It's all cooled off here. So I'm going to turn on the water. Let's see what happens. Just a little bit, there's nothing dramatic. The water's turned on. Feels cold here. I heard it running into the water heater right here, so I know it's pressurized. Not seeing any dramatic squirting. That's good. So it looks good. I have the water turned on here, and then I turned it off. So I know everything's off. I don't hear it running, so it's completely pressurized. All right. Don't have to spend the time cleaning, because there's nothing worse than having a leaking joint, and you have to take it out, because then you have to drain it without being able to have a good, you really just have to cut it again. But normally you can take off the joints, you can sweat the joints off, but the way it is here in the basement, it'd be pretty difficult. So I've opened the hot and cold, all the way up through the house and got all the air out. I let it run for a little bit to kind of clean out, and then just reverse, plug back in, whatever you need. I like to do the water heater last when I know everything's working correctly. This is all looks good, no leaks.